I want to introduce you to two Connecticut teachers who were college students in New York City when the Twin Towers were hit, and 20 years later, how those experiences are impacting them in their classrooms today. What the world witnessed from afar, Bill Martino experienced from his college campus.
You were able to see the smoke sort of rising from the World Trade Center.
Martino was a student at Fordham University in New York City when the towers were hit.
To see those buildings on fire that morning is an image that is really sort of burned into my head.
Today, the Kingswood Oxford English teacher is sharing his experiences with his students in West Hartford.
Nowadays, our students are just so immune to everything. They're just inundated with images, and there have been no shortage of tragedies since 9/11. So I think, it would be easy for them to just kind of categorize that as another thing that happened to our country.
The dad of 4 helping young people find the meaning in our history.
9/11 really changed the course of history. I mean, there's pre-9/11 world and then post-9/11 world. Our day-to-day activities, traveling, everything changed on that morning.
Martino's New York City literature class tackles September 11th. Before the pandemic, it included a trip to the 9/11 Memorial and Museum.
I have all of my notes from 9/11, and like you can see, maybe halfway down the page, that I just kind of stop. And I've been carrying that around with me for like 20 years, and I still show that to my students.
Stephanie Lodovico was a freshman at Fordham when the towers fell.
And 20 years later, I'm still struggling with how to talk about it.
But the Cheshire special ed teacher remembers it well.
When we would go upstairs, you could see the smoke even for weeks afterward. I remember all the commuters at Fordham were stuck there because bridges and tunnels were closed.
For the mom of 2, the impact of the attacks are less about lesson plans and more about how that September day influences the way she wants her students to feel in her Doolittle Elementary School classroom.
It's always really important to me to make sure that my students feel safe when they're in my classroom, that they know that I care for them, that I would never let anything happen to them, that we're all on the same page about, what are our emergency plans, this is what we do, this is where we go.
They're students too young to know a world before 9/11, but fortunate to have teachers still finding the good in one of America's darkest chapters.
I hope that the young people remember the sacrifices that were made that day, the bravery that was exhibited, like I said, the outpouring of love and support.
Our thanks to Bill and Stephanie for sharing their stories. Often talking about September 11th and other tragedies can be incredibly difficult, especially when it's done with kids. Stephanie Lodovico uses a book called Fireboat in her own classroom that talks about the heroism that was exhibited on 9/11 and the days following, if you're looking for something to share with your own kids. Tim?
So much for that. Boy, just knowing that you were there in the city also on 9/11 at Fordham at the time must have just been so startling for you.
Tim, it was an experience I will never forget. I want to share some pictures from that day, some 20 years ago, being on campus with Bill and Stephanie, coming out of class and being able to see the smoke from the Twin Towers right from our dorm. I remember campus was in lockdown. People were stuck, often having difficulty communicating with loved ones, wondering who was there. But on a positive note, what I think I'll remember the most was just the resiliency of that campus and that city, people stepping up the best they could to help others in need during that time. It is a bond that so many share, everybody having their own story from 20 years ago, and just hard to imagine that it has now been 2 decades, Tim, since that tragedy.
I know you do remember, especially in these politically polarized times, just how much the country came together with a unifying spirit in the days and weeks that followed. Keith, thank you so much for giving us those pictures and those recollections as well. We do appreciate it.